Yeah. Thank you for that exuberant introduction. You know, we are all here and part of Toastmasters because we want to do more, we want to be more, we want to accomplish more. We could say it this way: we're all here and we have inside of us dreams, we have inside of us goals and things passionately that burn on the inside of us. And that's part of why we step out into something like Toastmasters. And I'm here to tell you and encourage you that your dreams are just waiting for you, just like my dreams are waiting for me to commit to them and to follow them and to pursue them. There's a man named Larry Walters who had a dream, and his dream was to fly. So when Larry finished high school, he enrolled in the Air Force. He found out, unfortunately, in the Air Force, because of his poor vision, he would never get a pilot's license. He finished his time in the Air Force and he became a truck driver. And he kind of relegated his dream to sitting in his lawn chair in his backyard and watching the planes fly overhead and watching the jets fly by. But he couldn't push down the exuberance of his dream. And one day, Larry decided to go to the Army-Navy surplus store. And Larry bought a large helium tank and several weather balloons. Now, I'm not talking about the little balloons you see at the parties, right? You know, the pop them with the pin, that kind of thing. That's not what we're talking about. These inflate to 4 feet wide, and they're pretty heavy duty. So then Larry went home, and he attached the balloons to his lawn chair. And then he attached his lawn chair to the base of his pickup truck, filled up the balloons with helium. He went inside, got some lunch, got something to drink, and he grabbed a BB gun and went outside with him. Now, Larry's thought was that he would float up a little bit and then float around a bit and then use the BB gun to shoot the balloons and just serenely float back to Earth. However, what happened was Larry sat down and he cut the cord that attached the lawn chair to the truck. He didn't gradually, serenely sail into the air. He shot into the air like he was shot out of a cannon. 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet, 3,000 feet, until finally he leveled off, Larry in his lawn chair, at 11,000 feet. Now, at 11,000 feet, Larry realized that using the BB gun to shoot the balloons was probably not a good idea. So what did Larry do? He floated around for 14 hours until finally he floated over into the flight path for Los Angeles International Airport. The Pan Am pilot actually radioed in to the airport of passing a man at 11,000 feet in a lawn chair with a gun. I gotta tell you, I would love to have heard that conversation. You saw what? I think we're gonna need to talk to you when you get on the ground. So the evening came and the wind changed and Larry ended up being blown over the ocean, still in his lawn chair. So now the Navy gets involved. And the Navy comes in a helicopter to get Larry, but the only problem is every time the helicopter gets closer to Larry, it just pushes him further away. So finally, the helicopter figures out a way to get over top of Larry, They get a rope down to Larry. They get Larry out of the chair into the helicopter. And they finally get back on land. And of course, as soon as Larry gets off the helicopter, he is arrested. And all the media is there, the television stations and everything. And as they're walking him off, one of the newspaper reporters yells out, "Mr. Walters, why did you do it?" And Larry looked at him completely deadpan serious. "Well, a man can't just sit around." Now we might think, oh my goodness, that is quite the way of achieving your dreams. That's a very unorthodox method. But what Larry did was say, I am going to take responsibility in whatever unorthodox way he came up with, but he decided that he was going to take responsibility for his dream to fly. And the same comes back to all of us. Raise your hand with me and say I.
Aye.
Okay, no, like you mean it. Say I.
Aye.
Okay, now look at the person next to you. They're just like you. They're just like me. Now say to the person next to you, I am responsible for my dreams. See, you will never accomplish your dreams until you take responsibility and ownership of them. Henry Ford said that whether you believe that you can or believe that you can't, you're right. And that's the truth. Do you know that you believe yourself more than anybody else? You and I all need to take responsibility because the dreams are there for the achieving, for the taking, for the experiencing. There was once a man who was a farmer in Africa. And he heard stories about diamonds that were being discovered all over Africa. And he wanted to have a diamond mine. He didn't want to be a farmer. He wanted to find diamonds. So he sold his farm and went all over the continent looking for diamonds. And he searched, and he searched, and he searched. And finally, in a fit of frustration, because he found nothing, he threw himself into a river and drowned. The person who bought his farm was out for a walk one day and was walking across a river on the property, and he saw this big rock, kind of rough hewn. It was blue, it was a little silver, a little white. And he picked it up. He thought, well, this looks nice. So he took it home and he put it on his mantle as a nice kind of, keepsake ornament. A few days later, he had a friend visiting. And the friend saw the object on the wall, and he asked if he could go and look at it. He said, sure. He went up, he picked it up. His friend almost fainted. He said, do you know what you have here? He said, it's just a rock. I found it over in the riverbed. It looks nice, but it's just a rough-hewn rock. He said, this is probably one of the largest rough diamonds that has ever been found in the world. The man said, well, the riverbed's full of them. That riverbed and that farm turned out to be the most productive diamond mine in Africa. But the first man, because he would not look where he was sitting on his own acres of diamonds. That's like us. A lot of people just sit on their own acres of diamonds because they think, someday over there, one day when that happens, one day I'll do this, one day I'll do that. Instead of saying, no, it's right here and I'm going to take responsibility and live it today. Probably all of us have heard the saying carpe diem. Would that be right? Could someone tell me what does it mean? It's not a trick question. Could someone tell me what does it mean?
Seize the day.
Seize the day. Not seize someday. Not seize one day. Seize today, the day. See, Larry, no matter how unorthodox he was, he said, I'm going to seize the day, and I'm going to get in this lawn chair, and I'm going to spend 14 hours floating over Los Angeles. The man who sold the farm said, it's out there somewhere. It's not right here. It's not in me. Do you know what? You all have inside of you everything that you need to accomplish your dreams. You just start somewhere. You're not going to accomplish them overnight. It's not going to happen tomorrow. You know, if you decide that you want to run a marathon, I'll use me as an example. If I decide I want to run a marathon and I go out to run a marathon tomorrow, do you know what will happen? I will need to call 911, ventilator, whole deal. Why? Because I'm not prepared. But if my dream is to run a marathon, maybe I should run around the block tomorrow. If your dream is to play guitar, buy a guitar. Start playing. If your dream is to play basketball, go shoot hoops. If your dream is to write, go and write. There was a woman who wanted to be a poet. She told everybody, I want to be a poet. And so somebody asked her, well, what books have you read about poetry? She said, oh, none. They asked her, well, what books have you read to improve your vocabulary? None. What poetry have you read? None. What plays have you read? None. What poetry have you written? None. Now let me ask you all this question. Is this woman going to fulfill her dream of being a poet?
Someday.
Yeah, someday, right? Let me tell you something, and I'll tell you from personal experience. Someday never comes. I lived a whole life of, I'll do that tomorrow, I'll do that someday. And you know what you get at the end of that? A whole bunch of regrets. Because you didn't pursue what was inside of you. So take a step and start where you're at. Wherever that is. Whatever that dream is. And however small that step might seem, just go ahead and do something. And don't wait for someday. Do like Larry. Can't just sit around. Thank you.